Thank you, Presiding Officer. We would not be here today if the project manager and their office conducted their activities in relation to construction of 801 and 802 at Ferguson's Marine with anything approaching normal professional standards. It was not a mere contributory factor. Now, I make that observation as someone who's run projects of a similar financial scale and collections of projects, multiples of the scale of this project. The contract and processes around procurement were industry standard and had worked previously, and they're not just used in Scotland but widely. The response of those in charge of procurement to the manager's failure, however, was inadequate and substantially contributed to why we are where we are today. Question: did CMAL know about the project manager's failures early enough to have intervened to minimise the damage? And my conclusion is almost certainly. Did the complexity of the procurement structure, which involved CMAL, Transport Scotland and the government, contribute to the problem? Yes, I'm pretty clear. It was more complicated than it needed to be. But the legal requirement to have that structure only ceased at 2300 hours on the 31st of December 2020. I've never said leaving the EU didn't have some advantages, and this might be just one of them. So I see Graham Simpson nodding to that one. Question: in providing financial assistance to Ferguson Marine, should the enterprise agency have informed CMAL and others of doing so? And my answer, and here I differ from the quite strongly held views, I don't misrepresent him, I hope, of Edward Mountain, is that no, they should not have told them. Now, it's by not being told by the funder through proper oversight of the project, the CMAL should have known by other means. Now, why? In providing support to a commercial company, the enterprise agencies must not discriminate in favour of state companies over private sector ones, although I heard Graham Simpson say we shouldn't be ploughing vast sums of money in a private company. It's unusual from those benches, but there we are. The whole point is that we have to be blind as to whether it's a state company or a private sector company. There's nothing new about this. This is what's termed Chinese walls. Now, I'll just tell you a little story from my own experience. In the 1980s, my spouse was part of a team of advisors to the Distillers Company when they were bidding to purchase Bell's whisky. For my part, one of my teams working for me was a part of the Bell's team on the other side of that takeover battle. There was clearly a conflict of interest in our household between our respective professional interests. The old saw is, he who would a secret keep must first keep secret that they have a secret to keep. My spouse and I discussed nothing about this and knew nothing of each other's involvement in this until 6 months after the event, having lunch with someone who raised the subject who'd been involved in it. That was the first time we knew we had been on opposite sides of a takeover battle on the stock exchange. That is how it has to work with the kind of Chinese wall. And so enterprise companies must do so in this context. But of course, the examination of the accounts receivable, the knowledge of where the business was getting its contracts for, would have been an important part for CMAL. Concluding, Presiding Officer, the primary failure definitely lay with the yard, but I do think CMAL could have done more, and I do hope, Minister, that we will look at that very carefully. Thank you, Presiding Officer.